All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back to continue day number 17 of Donald Trump's hush money trial, where Michael Cohen is continuing his testimony and being questioned by Susan Hoffinger from Alvin Bragg's DA's office. Also, you're going to want to stick around because after the prosecution finishes their questions, Donald Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, is stepping up to begin the cross-examination. And of course, we get to hear all of this thanks to our guy, Inner City Press, who is reporting from inside the courtroom and is telling us everything that is happening, what the judge is saying, what the prosecution is saying, and yes, of course, what Trump's defense is saying. But without any further ado, let's go back into the courtroom where they have come back from break. And Judge Bertrand says, all right, please bring in the witness and jury. And we have Susan Hoffinger continuing the questions for Michael Cohen. And she says, all right, Mr. Cohen, are you familiar with Robert Costello? Cohen says, I was introduced by Jeffrey. We were both on advisory board of Sterling National Bank. He said Costello was close with Rudy Giuliani. And what did Mr. Costello tell you about his relationship with Rudy Giuliani, Mr. Cohen? Cohen says he said he was very close with Rudy, and it could be a back channel communication to the president to make sure you are still good and still secure. He showed me a retainer agreement even though I was still speaking with other lawyers. It was kind of sketchy. I didn't want what I told him to be told to Rudy and President Trump. And the prosecutor asks, are these emails with Mr. Costello? Cohen says, yes. They're offering a back channel. Okay, please read this, Mr. Cohen. Cohen reads, Costello wrote, quote, you have friends in high places, sleep well. And what did you think of Costello writing about his friend speaking to his client, Mr. Cohen? Cohen says, it was spyish. It was kind of weird. I think they were dangling a pre-pardon. They were concerned I was going to hire another lawyer from a boutique firm. And what is this, Mr. Cohen? And Cohen responds, Bob Costello sent me a link on YouTube. It was Rudy Giuliani on possibility of Cohen cooperating a Mueller probe. And I wrote back, why did you send this to me? Costello wrote, the Southern District of New York is trying to drain you until you see them as your only salvation. These left-wing journalists want you to fail. If you want more from your former boss, you should make that known. And what is this? Cohen says, it's a pressure campaign. I hired other lawyers. I spoke with my family about what to do. And they said, why are you hanging on to that loyalty? We're supposed to come first. And what did you decide, Mr. Cohen? Cohen says that my loyalty should be to my family and to my country. The prosecutor says, did you plead guilty to excessive campaign contributions to Stormy Daniels? Cohen says, yes. Prosecutor says, to influence, and Trump's lawyer, Blanche, says, objection. And they have a sidebar, during which Trump speaks with Emile Beauvais. And Merchan says, the objection is sustained. And the prosecutor continues, why did you pay Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen? Cohen answers, I paid her for Trump's campaign. And you pled to a role in an FEC illegal corporate contribution? Cohen says, yes, for AMI to Karen McDougal. And Judge Merchan interjects and says, the FECA violation is only to assess Mr. Cohen's credibility and to provide context. And the prosecutor continues, did you plead guilty to tax evasion and false statements to a financial institution? Yes, those were unrelated to Mr. Trump. And after you pled guilty, did Mr. Trump tweet? And they show a tweet about how he didn't retain Michael Cohen, contrasting him to Paul Manafort. And the prosecutor says, what effect did this have on you, Mr. Cohen? Cohen said, it caused me angst and anxiety. The prosecutor says, did you then plead guilty to false statements to Congress about Trump Tower Moscow? Cohen says, yes, I did. And in December 12th of 2018, were you sentenced? Cohen says, yes, I was sentenced to 36 months, restitution, and 2 fines. I surrendered on May the 6th of 2019. And did you testify to Congress before you surrendered? Cohen says, yes. Representative Elijah Cummings reached out to me through Laney Davis. And were you on TV? Yes, I was. I apologize to the country. And did you provide testimony to the office of the special counsel? Yes, I did. I admitted that my previous testimony to Congress was false. And how much time did you serve and where? Cohen says, I served 13 months in Otisville, then home confinement. And were you briefly sent back to prison? Objection, says Todd Blanche. Overruled, says Judge Merchan. Cohen answers, I was heading up to the Bronx to GEO, but I received a call from Adam at 500 Pearl Street. I was told I need to go there. I asked Jeffrey K. Levine to come. They showed me an agreement that violated the First Amendment. Objection! And we don't know here whether or not Judge Merchan sustained this objection. I'm going to guess he overruled it. But the prosecution continues. I'll ask a few leading questions. Did the agreement constrain your ability to speak, Mr. Cohen? Cohen answers, yes, I was writing a book. And the prosecutor says, in March 2023, did you testify to the grand jury and did you have immunity? Yes, I did. And that is my understanding from my lawyer. And have you asked us to help get your federal sentence reduced? Cohen says, yes. And was it your understanding that the Southern District of New York prosecutors declined to receive such a letter to reduce? Cohen says, yes. But our offer, has it influenced your testimony, Mr. Cohen? Cohen says, no. And what did you do with your old phones? Cohen says, I had one in a box, another in a pouch, and I was foiling the BOP. I wanted to record the conversation, so I powered up the older cell phone. And were you under any legal restriction on how to use the phones? Cohen says, no. And did you give us the phones in January of 2023? Cohen says, yes. I had not altered my previous recordings with Mr. Trump. And have you made any public statements that you should not have been prosecuted on tax and bank statement charges? Do you dispute the fact? Objection from Todd Blanche. Overruled, says Judge Merchan. Cohen answers the question. He says, they said they would charge my wife on the taxes since she signed them. And the HELOC, I dispute that it was material. The prosecutor says, but you accepted responsibility, right? Cohen says, I did. In fact, I am still under supervised release. And did you testify in New York Attorney General's case against the Trump Organization? Yes, I did. And were you cross-examined about statements? And then she stops and says, oh, I see Mr. Blanche is rising. Do you want to approach? And then they have a sidebar, and Judge Merchan says the objection is withdrawn. And Susan Hoffinger, the prosecutor, continues her questioning, and she says, did you admit to lying to the Southern District of New York Judge Pauley during your plea? Cohen says, I did. I was given 48 hours to plead guilty, or they would indict my wife. But you didn't lie to Judge Pauley about campaign finance, right? No, ma'am. And are you a lawyer, Mr. Cohen? No, I am not. I was disbarred. And as a felon, I can't own New York taxi medallions. And do you have real estate? Only one secondary apartment other than my residence. And what do you do now? Cohen says media and entertainment. And what is this? What does this entail, Mr. Cohen? Cohen answers, I have a podcast called Mea Culpa, My Initials, and another podcast with Midas Touch. And I also wrote the book Disloyal. And what about the book Revenge? Cohen says, it's about the Southern District of New York's corrupt prosecution against me, the weaponization of the DOJ. And in February of 2021, did you invite Stormy Daniels on your Mea Culpa podcast? Cohen says, yes. And have you continued to be the recipient of negative posts by Mr. Trump? Cohen says, I was. And then the prosecution shows a True Social post by Donald Trump talking about horse-faced Stormy Daniels. And they continue, did Mr. Trump sue you? Cohen says, yes, for $500 million. He dismissed it. And do you have any regrets about your past work with Donald Trump, Mr. Cohen? Yes, I did things for him I should not have, bullying people. But there were good times. I lost my moral compass. Judge Merchan says, all right, we're going to break and let's fast forward. And they're back, and Judge Merchan says, Mr. Blanche. And now we have Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, stepping up to do the cross-examination of Michael Cohen. And Todd Blanche says, all right, Mr. Cohen, we've never met, right? But you know who I am, don't you? Cohen says, yes, I do. And you called me little shit on TikTok. Cohen says, sounds like something I would say. Judge Merchan says, okay, approach, please. And Blanche is back and he says, okay, Mr. Cohen, you've commented about jury selection, correct? Objection, says Susan Hoffinger. Sustained, says Judge Merchan. You said on TikTok that Mr. Pecker corroborated you. Cohen says, someone called me and told me. Well, you have been following it on CNN and MSNBC, correct? I watch, for example, about protests about Israel, so I see that as well. And you called President Trump a dictator douchebag? Cohen says, sounds like I'd say that. And Lanny Davis, your lawyer, do you recall him saying line prosecutors to report to the top? Objection, says Susan Hoffinger. Sustained, says Judge Merchan. Blanche continues, do you remember the prosecutors being frustrated you leaked to the press? Cohen says, no. Okay, take a look at this email. Do you remember now? Cohen says, from this document, yes, I do remember. And in February of 2021, you were going on TV talking about the investigation. Cohen says, I go on TV often, so I don't remember. Blanche says, but you promised your attorney you'd stop TV. Objection, says Susan Hoffinger. Sustained, says Merchan. Blanche continues, okay, Mr. Cohen, look at this email. Cohen says, it disappeared. It disappeared from my screen. What do I do? Blanche says, your lawyer told a member of the DA's office. Merchan says, hey, the objection is sustained. So Blanche continues, and he says, you continue to talk to the press about the case, correct? Cohen says, sounds correct. And I don't want it to sound correct. Is it correct? Cohen says, yes, it is. And in February the 23rd, the DA's office, you gave them 2 phones. Jeremy Rosenberg. Michael Cohen says, yes. And do you remember telling Don Lemon about giving your phones to the DA, then saying they already had the info? Cohen says, I don't recall either way. Blanche says, all right, well, look at this. And Cohen puts on his reading glasses, and he says, I don't recall. Blanche says, well, 6 days after the grand jury, once again, the DA's office was frustrated with you because you were continuing to talk on TV, correct? Cohen says, I don't recall. Well, you told them you'd do no more TV until after the indictment, right? Cohen says, I don't remember. So he is having amnesia all of a sudden, Michael Cohen. He remembered everything whenever he was being questioned by the prosecution, but now it's like magic. It all just disappeared from his brain. But Blanche continues, you testified in details about calls with President Trump in 2016, but now you can't remember things from 2023. Is that your testimony, Mr. Cohen? Cohen says, not these conversations with Laney Davis. Well, how about last March? They told you to stop TV. You don't remember the DA's office telling you were unwittingly helping President Trump by going on TV? Michael Cohen says, I don't remember. Well, you were called down to the DA's office as possible rebuttal of Costello's testimony. Cohen says, I've spoken with him and they told me it's probably better off if I didn't speak out, but I have a First Amendment right to speak. And how often did they say that, Mr. Cohen? Michael Cohen says, I don't recall. Probably fewer than 5 times. And you haven't done it. You do 4 podcasts a week? Cohen says, yes. And there were hundreds since the case has been charged, correct? Cohen says, I haven't done the math. Blanche says, well, we can do it right now. Hundreds. And you are active on X, correct? Cohen says, yes. And you do a nightly TikTok podcast? Cohen says, yes, it's because I can't sleep. And one of the reasons why you do TikTok is to make money, correct? Cohen says, money is made. And you speak about Mr. Trump every day, correct? Cohen says, I do it 6 days a week, 6 days a week. Blanche says, well, on your beatdown cast, March 19th, you displayed a binder. Blanche continues, you've regularly commented that you want President Trump in jail. Is that correct? Cohen says, yes, I would like to see that, sure. And you sell a t-shirt depicting President Trump in an orange jumpsuit behind bars? Cohen says, yes, that's one item. Blanche says, we offer this into evidence, a $32 t-shirt with President Trump in jail. Cohen says, yes, that's my t-shirt. And the coffee cups send him to the big house, not the White House. So it's not just the t-shirt, correct? I guess there's an objection here. And Judge Merchan sustains the objection from the prosecution. And Blanche continues, well, obviously you changed your view of President Trump in 2018. Cohen answers, it was when I spoke on George Stephanopoulos. And you still live in a building with Mr. Trump's name on it, correct? Cohen says, yes. And you rent out an apartment you own in Trump building for $15,000 a month, is that correct? Cohen says, to an embassy. And you made millions in tax medallions, correct? I did. And President Trump was happy with your results? Yes, he was. And you helped present the Trump children to the media, right? Cohen says, yes, I did. And you've read Art of the Deal twice? Cohen says, yes, it's an excellent book, a masterpiece. And you saw yourself in President Trump, is that right, Mr. Cohen? Yes, I did. Blanche continues, were you obsessed with President Trump? Cohen answers, I was in the cult of Donald Trump. And what you said in 2015, was it the truth? Cohen says, it was how I felt. And in 2016, you spoke in Cleveland for President Trump. Is that correct? Cohen says, yes, it was at a church. And you spoke to Vanity Fair and said you were the one who protected the president, stopped leaks, and that you would take a bullet for him, correct? Cohen says, yes. Now Blanche says, you said you were offered $10 million to write a tell-all, but you wouldn't? Cohen says, I would not. Well, during the investigation, you said you didn't see the Trump children. Cohen says, not that I couldn't. Blanche says, well, you lied in February of 2017 to Congress, then got raided. Did you say, boss, I miss you so much? Cohen says, I don't recall. But do you remember when you decided to cooperate? Cohen says, no, I don't. And at the first meeting, you gave a reason why you were going to meet with him. And you said your life was turned upside down in the Steele dossier and you've never been to Prague. And what you testified, it was a lie, correct? Cohen said it wasn't accurate. But was it a lie? Cohen says, I wouldn't call it that. So when you didn't testify truthfully, how many things did you lie about? Cohen says, I don't know. Well, you told them when you heard of the Access Hollywood tape, you were in London at the restaurant Lulu's, correct? Yes. But then you told them you didn't speak with the president. Is that right? Cohen says, it says I might have. Todd Blanche says, don't read, just answer. And he continues, so in 2018, 2 years after Access Hollywood, you said you didn't know if you spoke with President Trump. But yesterday, 8 years later, you said you have a specific memory of President Trump being there. And you pled guilty twice, then spoke to Congress in February of 2019, testifying completely differently than what you had said before. Is that correct? Cohen says yes. And you were supposed to surrender in March of 2019, but it got delayed to May, and then you testified. And did Anthony Scaramucci visit you in prison in Otisville? Cohen says yes. And Merchan says, all right, we're going to take a break. And they're back. And Judge Merchan says, jurors, we're not going to meet Friday. And Thursday, we'll only go to 4 p.m. All right, Mr. Blanche, your witness. And Todd Blanche steps up and he continues his cross-examination. He says, all right, Mr. Cohen, you've been in Otisville 3 months. And you asked the district attorney of New York prosecutors why you should meet with them? Cohen says, I asked. Okay, look at these notes, Mr. Cohen. Did you ask? Cohen says, the line, why are you here? That's where I asked. Blanche said, 2 lines above that from December to August. Under Rule 35, your sentence can be amended if there's cooperation. In a year. Cohen says, Judge Pauly had that in his order. Well, your lawyer asked the district attorney if they would help write a Rule 35 motion. And you were there, is that right? Cohen says, I believe so. And they didn't commit. Then in December, Roger Adler filed a Rule 35 motion. Cohen says, yes, based on cooperation. And the federal judge denied your motion. Is that right? Cohen said, yes, he did. But after you got out due to COVID, you tried again with disloyal and mea culpa. And you called Trump a boorish cartoon misogynist. Is that right? Cohen says, sounds like something I would say. And you called President Trump a Cheetos-dusted cartoon villain? Cohen says, yes, I did. And you said, I effing want to see him locked up. Cohen says, sounds like my language on mea culpa. Blanche says, I want you to listen to it, not the jury. And they put the headphones on. And Prosecutor Hoffinger says, Your Honor, may we approach for a moment? Then they have a sidebar. And now Blanche is continuing his cross-examination. And he says, Mr. Cohen, you said President Trump should be in handcuffs. And you made money off of it, right? Cohen says, I did. And you are motivated by a desire for fame. Is that correct? Cohen says, no. Blanche says, you made $2 million from disloyal, correct? Cohen says, yes. And in January of 2021, you thanked the DA team for continuing their case, correct? I did. And you started meeting with Mark Pomerantz? Cohen says, yes, by Zoom. The prosecutor calls a sidebar. And now Blanche is back. And he says, Mr. Cohen, you wanted the DA's office to say you were helping. Is that correct? Cohen says, yes, I would say so. And until November of 2021, you were still under home confinement, right? Cohen says, I was allowed to go out 3 hours a day in Manhattan with an ankle bracelet, then a phone. And you were doing your mea culpa podcast from your house and going on TV, like in January of 2021 on MSNBC's Ali Velshi and Joy Reid. Cohen says, I have appeared on their shows frequently. And have you met DA Alvin Bragg? Cohen says, no. And how much did you make from your book Revenge? $400,000. And you call yourself a fixer? Yes, I do. And are you fixing things that you already broke, Mr. Cohen? Cohen says, no. And now Judge Merchan says, all right, this will be a good place to stop. But wait, there's more. Judge Merchan says, Mr. Blanche, can you finish your cross-examination of this witness by the end of Thursday? Blanche says, yes. Our expert witness, we'd like to know about the charge. And that's what we have for today, guys. It looks like we have a pretty abrupt stop from Inner City Press today. I don't know what happens after this because we don't have an update. But what do you guys think of Michael Cohen's cross-examination? He seemed to have been pretty obsessed with Donald Trump. And when he didn't get his way, he seems to have snapped. And now he is turning on Trump and he is wanting to gain all the fame and notoriety and money by going after Donald Trump and aligning himself with these corrupt prosecutors and the Democrats who are also going after Donald Trump, of course, for political reasons. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you on the next one.